Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another awesome episode of Bring Back the Love Conversations. I am your host, AJ Throwback. Great to be here with you on another Friday night. And I am joined by a very special guest this Friday. Not only is she an international ESL educator, entrepreneur, and relationship selfie coach, but she is also a fellow alum of Hobart and William Smith colleges. We go way back. You know what I'm saying? Like this, when I say this is my sister, we call each other twin. You know what I'm saying? Like we are definitely kindred spirits. Like she's one of the most awesome people on the face of the planet. And I'm so honored to have my sis here, Youlanda Barber, here this evening. How you doing, sis?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Glad to have you on. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody who I know is going to definitely give a very layered, nuance conversation about love, romance, R&B, all of that good stuff. So I'm honored to have you on the show tonight.
And I'm totally honored to be here. Thank you for having
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't think of anybody better to have on here. You know what I'm saying? Other than the missus, of course. You know what I'm saying?
me. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So, um, I always like to start off with people in terms of like when they fell in love with music. You know, different people. The focus is R&B, but like I think a lot of people it's just a different kind of sort of trajectory when it comes to music when they fall in love with it. So, what are your first memories of really falling in love with music? And it can include but not be limited to R&B.
All right. So I have to mention that my father is a pastor. And so my first introduction to music is the Word of God. In the beginning was the Word was with God, um, and the Word is God. So for me, it starts off with the language. And in church, I always notice how preachers speak. They always have like this rhythmic way of speaking when they're telling a story or reading the Bible and just weaving in the stories and the Bible together. And then gospel music. I gotta say gospel music. But for me it starts with the word. It starts with the word.
Yeah, and I think that that's very important to note because this came up in another conversation regarding really how gospel music is the source for so much black music in America. You know what I mean? Like when you think about the whole thing of call and response being so prominent in so much of our music, a lot of that comes from the church. You know what I'm saying? A lot of that comes from, I mean, you think about even some of our greatest soul singers, R&B singers, they got their start in the church because I mean, when you really think about learning harmony, when you think about really just singing with emotion, what better place to really learn it in the church? I remember, I think it was Brian Michael Cox. So Brian Michael Cox, for those of y'all who may or may not know the name, he's done a lot of work with Jermaine Dupri. Uh, got a lot of his work off like working with Jagged Edge. But one of the things that he said was how part of the issue that he sees in R&B music today is that a lot of people didn't get that foundation in the church. Um, and I just really feel like it's such a great way if you're going to go into any realm, whether it's R&B, whether it's hip hop. Um, I feel like having that foundation, learning how to sing with other people, learning that you are a part of something bigger than yourself, it really does start with the church.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that because the first person that comes to my mind, as much as I love Whitney Houston, don't even get me started, is Tina Turner.
Hmm.
Tina Turner comes to mind because I believe her story was they didn't like her voice or the way she sounded. And that was a problem to me because in the beginning was the word. And when words come out of people's mouths, it's interesting because you have letters, and letters alone have their own sound. When you put them
Mhm.
next to other letters, then they may change their sound, they may blend with their sound, or they just may become silent. And so for me, I had a really big issue with them taking issue with her voice because gospel music goes all the way back to West Africa,
Mhm.
West African folk to be
Yep.
exact.
Yep.
And people don't actually know that. And while we're on that note, people are getting into Beyonce about coming into a genre that doesn't belong to her.
Hmm.
All genres of music belongs to us because it
That's right.
starts back in Africa. And
Mhm.
so I love Tina Turner. I love her voice and I love her
Yes.
take on things. And so I'm looking at people like, how are you going to have an issue with her voice and the way don't even get me started. Like I loved it because it was different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. Like she has one of the most recognizable, distinguishable voices in music history. Nobody sounds like Tina Turner. And that was one of the biggest things that I loved about her. I love that about really anybody, whether you're talking like singers, whether you're talking rappers, people who like nobody can imitate that person. And if they did, it's like, yeah, you are definitely like the great value version of that person. You know.
And while we're on that, let's talk about MC Light's voice.
Mm.
Ooh,
Hmm.
man,
Hmm.
come on now. Like I just love her whole flow. Like the way she
Yeah.
speaks, enunciates. I can't, yeah. She's just so dope. She was, what show was she on? Half and Half, where she was like the executive of a music thing on this show, and like I was so grateful to see her because even though she wasn't rapping, I still feel like her voice, the perspective of her voice, her sound, her cadence, her presence, everything about her just still
Hmm.
needs to be around, even if it
Absolutely.
wasn't on a stage, it was on a different kind of stage because she's iconic,
Yeah.
just like simply iconic.
Yeah. Yeah. And and I'm glad that you mentioned that with her, like the fact that even if she's not rapping, her voice is still necessary because I mean, if you think about it, she was she was the voice to a lot of those BET awards, whether it was the BET like the main awards, the hip hop awards, whatever it was, and like different other award shows too. Like they recognize just how recognizable her voice is, how stand out and distinguished her voice is. That it's like, okay, let's use you in this format too, on top of recognizing you for your contributions to the culture. Um,
Yeah,
and people like that, you really have to kind of go out of your way to preserve their voices and celebrate their voices in a multitude of ways. And them being able to allow her to do that, it keeps her voice relevant. It keeps her voice as a necessary part of like our lexicon, so to say.
definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so you have, of course, you know the gospel. In terms of like your first memories of like R&B singers who you really gravitated towards, like who are some of the people that really jumped off the page for you?
Anita Baker.
Yes, yes.
Her whole album was this called Rhythm of Love?
The one that came out in '94.
I think so.
Yeah, that was such a great album. Such a great album.
It's she sounds the way love should feel like.
Mm, mm,
Like that's just it. Like I don't know who wrote her songs. I wasn't so much into who wrote the songs. I was into how the songs were sung. It wasn't until just recently when I heard a song and I said to myself, like, not only who wrote the song, but what perspective is it being written from? Is it being written from their perspective or the opposite person's perspective in their relationship? But like, I just loved everything about not only the way she would sing, but her movements, the way
Hmm.
she moved, the way she just gave herself completely to the song. And I loved how artists would take other people's words and just make them come alive.
Yeah.
Just that alone. And while we're on that, the I Will Always Love You song by that was written by Dolly Parton. I
Hmm.
heard her sing the song on Extra a long time ago, and I had
Hmm.
no idea what this woman was talking about. But when Whitney Houston sung that song, I could actually make a film based on the way she sung that song. Every
Wow.
single, like, I can't even explain it to you. The way she sings that song is iconic because you know she understood she's under it's like she understood the beginning, the middle, and the end of the start of a relationship, in the middle of a relationship, and how the relationship ends, and then how it completely ends. Like, she made that song a complete movie. I didn't
Yeah.
even need a video because I could do it myself.
Hmm.
And that's the thing about country music to me, as it
Yeah.
pertains to the people that are doing it that doesn't look like me. They don't make it intelligible. I need the moment. Now that love's taking over. What's her name?
Hmm.
Chantel Moore.
Shantae Moore. Shantae Moore. Yeah. Yeah.
Man, come on, man. She did this song like years ago, where it's just her and I can't,
Yeah.
I can't, I can't like the just the way she sings the way she opens her mouth and sings that song. I can see the sun. We're out at a park. I can
Mm.
hear children playing. I can see people walking. I can see trees and flowers. Like, you have, like, for me, the person singing the song has to make the song intelligible. It has to be read visually when you open. I know this probably doesn't make any sense to anybody,
Oh, it
but
makes perfect sense.
the moment you open your mouth, even the part where Whitney Houston is quiet, I can still see what is happening in the world between two people with the flowers bloom, like all of these things. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's what it speaks to, what you're saying. Like, it makes perfect sense to me. As a songwriter, as a music producer, like, it makes perfect sense because you have to be able to add the color where there is no color. And I think that, frankly, and this is no knock to any other vocalists out there, but I just think what is special about Black music is that we have a way of interpreting words and making it make sense. Like, the whole thing what you said, it needs to be intelligible. Like, that's what I hear, is that make it make sense. Make it paint a picture for me. I don't always want the video, because sometimes the videos don't do it justice anyway.
mhm,
I think one of the, and this is a rap example, but still, like, I think one of the biggest examples of there being color on the page, lyrically, sonically, was Mercy by Kanye. I think it was Kanye West, Big Sean, Pusha T, and I forget who else was on the song. I think 2 Chains. So
mhm,
when I first heard that song, I heard so much, like, color. I saw so many visuals. Like, I just envisioned that video being in Miami. Them somehow, like, I don't know, tying in like a Miami Vice meets Scarface type of theme in the
mhm,
song, because, like, that's what I was hearing. Like, it was certain scenes where I was seeing them kind of sort of almost like crisscrossing when they would drive down the A1A, or like a big street in Miami somewhere. And
mhm,
they shot it in a parking lot. I was like,
mhm,
that this is what y'all got? Like, in an underground parking lot at that. I'm like, this all of this color in this song, all of these visuals in this song, and this is what you give us. That's why I like, but still, the fact that I was able to get all of that out of these
Mhm.
lyrics, out of the sonics of the
Mhm.
song. Like it's the same thing with singing. Like it's certain people. Like I always think about. I don't know, for whatever reason just came to mind. Out on a Limb, Tina Marie. Like that's first and foremost, it's one of my favorite Tina Marie songs. Always has been.
Mhm.
Second, that song wasn't even. I don't even know if it was a single. And if it was, it didn't perform well. But it's like a Quiet Storm classic. But it's so it takes you through so many emotions that
Mhm.
to do a video for would actually wouldn't do it justice, because you can see all of the things that she went through in that relationship. And it's the same thing like you said with Whitney Houston. Like being able to it's interpretation of lyrics. Like to be able to interpret it, to feel it, to receive it, and then to emote it
Mhm.
vocally. Like that's an art. That's not everybody can do that well. And again, I feel like black artists are some of the best at doing that. I'm not going to say, we're head and shoulders above everybody else, but
I
it's hard for me not to say it. I'm gonna say that too.
I mean, look at Beyonce.
Yep. Yep.
Case in point. Like,
Yeah. 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 Jolene off of Cowboy Carter. Like
mhm.
when my wife and I would like we went riding around last week looking at houses,
Mhm.
and we put that whole album on. And when Jolene came on, oh my goodness. You talk about being able to see everything happening just from how she's singing the song.
Mhm.
Like, and I always loved Jolene, but how she interprets it and like the slight changes that she puts in there lyrically, it's like
Mhm.
it made it again, like you said, intelligible and relatable. And in a way that it's like you don't need a video for it. Even if she did one, it's like you don't need one because it's so visual how she paints the palette with her voice,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah,
So, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you,
definitely.
we could go down that rabbit hole all day with when it come to who interprets which song the best and all this and all that. But yeah, that's a great point. Um, in terms of we come from a specific generation where we got music differently. Like
Mhm.
radio, music videos, tapes, CDs, vinyl, as compared to now where it's like yeah, radio is still relevant, but
Mhm.
it's not the same as it was back in the day, you know.
Mhm.
Um
Definitely.
growing up, like and it could be specific radio shows, specific radio personalities, TV shows, TV personalities, um whether you listen mainly on tape or vinyl or CD, like how did you receive music and how do you feel like that shaped your appreciation of music?
104 WDKX, Rochester, New York, man.
Mhm.
Like, I am the baby in my family, and I am the only girl. So I'm like basically the only child, right? That's how I take it. When I was a baby, I used to rock all the
Mm,
time. I used to rock in my crib all the time. And the inside the mother's body is the first music box. And when you're taken out of it, the music is not the same, right? The music
yeah,
that was inside
yeah,
my mom that I heard, whether it was my family talking, like that was the music, plus the music of her organs and everything,
yeah, yeah.
plus
It's
my
power.
brother's side being inside the womb. But 104 WDKX was the music that matched my mom and the
Mm,
conversation with my family. They played everything. There was nothing they didn't play because it all the genres belong to us. And
mhm.
so I could not go to. I used to go to sleep. You have the big radio, right, with
Yeah.
the CDs and the cassette tapes and stuff, and so I listened to everything all the time. Jazz. Don't even get me started with jazz. Like I absolutely love almost every genre of music. I will say that, like I said, I didn't have a listening palette for country music until Ray Charles. Ray Charles isn't
Mm,
country, but there's something, it is the old rugged cross of his voice that compels me. I
yeah.
love the fact that he cannot see like us, but he has vision musically. And with
Hmm.
his ability to play the piano, the keys are black and white, but everything coming out of it is technicolor.
Yes.
Um, I'm not sure if he was able to see before and then he lost his sight. But for me, the
Yeah. He
music,
was. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so I feel like that was such. I First of all, I don't feel like, and I know people are gonna come for me for this, but please have mercy when I say this. I don't feel like anything was really. I don't feel like anything was really taken away from him because that short period of time where he could see, he didn't even have vision. He didn't receive vision
Hmm.
until his sight was taken away from him, and he was
Hmm.
gifted with musical notes. Right?
Yes.
For
Yes.
him, the paper for him it was a canvas, right?
Hmm.
It is a canvas, and the music, the air is the air is are the lines in which the music dangle on.
Hmm.
And for him, like, his fingers were the brushes and everything coming out of it was the color and the story. Like when
Yeah.
he sings Georgia,
Whew.
it is the desert colored sun that bursts across the canvas of the sky
Yeah.
that turns the periwinkle blue, because you know that copper, which I wear, copper can turn to this beautiful color of blue, in which
Yes.
there was by this poet, I forget her name, but it's called Art Class, and she talks
Hmm.
about how this young man takes animal's blood and he pours it into a flask and it makes a different color of blue. And
Mm.
for me, when he sings, I see the pure white, the purest white I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
The copper, that the two tones of copper that I'm wearing on my finger, and I can see the dust, the the just the. It reminds me of a line in Carla. What is her? I forget her name. She was a poet at Bar 13, and she says burst in the burgundy spray, but I don't see the burgundy spray. I see like the rust sand colored spray, and
Mm.
like the wind blows, and like
Yeah.
it again. There's like this scene with Georgia, and my
Yeah.
father was born in Georgia, but he was born in Eastman, Georgia, and it
Mm.
just,
Okay.
like, I just love. I was in Paris when I heard he died. I was
Oh,
sitting
wow.
at my grandparents, not my biological grandparents, house when he came, when the news came on, and I was like, what happened to Ray Charles? It was like he died, and as soon as that happened, all of the scenes from all of his music just went black,
Mm.
and then white with this orange bright light around it. And at
Mm.
first I was sad because we were losing a great musician and a great visual vocal artist. And then I realized he's a part of the air, the sun, the moon, the stars, the wind, the leaves, the trees, the grass, every periwinkle sky that I look at, every sunset that has ever been set. Like,
Hmm.
he's etched in my very existence,
Yeah.
in nature. Like, yeah. And that just reminds me of something that Nina Simone says. She says, your art must reflect the time. And he and Stevie Wonder did that. Like, don't
Yes.
get
Yes, they did.
Lord, Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
yeah, man.
Yeah. Ray Charles, first and foremost, before I even dig into the whole thing with Ray Charles. Everything you described and how you described it, first and foremost, you know you're a poet. Because like the way that you described everything was like, dang, can we get that in written form? That's first and foremost. Second of all, when you were describing everything in color, and it goes back to, what you were saying in terms of how us as black artists, we make things intelligible no matter what the genre is. It made me think of an episode, and I always tell people about this episode because I thought it was so fascinating. This episode of Empire, where Lucius Lyon, he talked about having synesthesia, and it's when you can hear music in color, like you associate certain emotions or certain notes or certain things within the music as a color, and like
Mhm.
everything that you were saying was like a color. And the thing is, when I thought about the lyrics, I'm like, that makes perfect sense. I can see all of that, and I couldn't really describe it before when it came specifically to Georgia on My Mind. But like I actually can see all of that unfold in that way when I hear that song. It's a very bright song. With a lot of color to it, whether you're talking how he sings it and interprets it, because many people have interpreted and sung that song, but nobody sang it like Ray Charles. Nobody.
Mm-mm,
Like
mm-mm.
his voice. And the third thing, or the third point in terms of like what you said in terms of him actually gaining something when he lost his vision. I think that's just really a testament to how God works. Is that when we when we lose one thing, he just gives us more of another thing to
Exactly.
almost to compensate for it. Because it's like, yeah, he lost his physical vision, but like you said, gaining that musical vision, because he didn't have the physical vision, he had to be even more imaginative. He had to paint the picture even more because of what he didn't have. Like, it's that yearning to see it, it's that yearning to visualize it and then interpret it for those who can see it. And it's like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't even be able to see all that. And I got my vision. You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying? So, like, it's just a matter of like God just adding more talent,
mhm.
God adding more vision, God adding more imagination where
Mhm.
there is a lack. And it really turns out to not really be a lack. It actually turns out, like you suggested, to be more of a surplus than a lack, you know. So yeah, that's powerful right there. Really, really powerful. But yeah, Ray Charles, I think people, we herald him, but I don't think he gets enough credit. I mean, they made a whole movie out about him, but still, he's one of those people I feel like should be celebrated even more than he
Exactly.
is, you know. So yeah.
Yeah.
But what you said about the how you compared, was it WDKX? Is that the station?
One for WDKX.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like comparing that station and saying that's the closest thing to when you were in the womb with your mom. Oh my gosh, I've never heard anybody ever say anything like that. That was, whoo, I felt that. I felt
Yeah.
that. You know, really, really
Yeah.
powerful. Yeah, yeah. So I feel like it was another question I was going to ask you in the music realm. So as we kind of transition to more of the conversation about like love languages and kind of sort of tying it in together with the
Mhm,
music. I think everybody, we subscribe to the traditional love languages, as we've come to know as a society, the five love languages,
mhm,
words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, physical touch, receiving gifts. Um but then it's funny because I saw somebody say this on Threads recently, where they
mhm.
said somebody's sending me music that I like, and knowing what I like musically, that's a love language. You know what I'm saying? It could easily be tied into one of the
Could
traditional
be.
love languages. You know what I'm saying? So for you, um, whether it's one of the five or whether it's something you name your own. Like, what would you say your love language is?
Well, I took it this morning, and
Hmm.
it said it was acts of service.
Hmm.
And I wasn't really very happy with the questions because one had to do with someone doing something for me, and then another one is something giving someone giving something to me.
Hmm.
And I just didn't, like I didn't really feel very comfortable with the questions. And
Okay.
I still have to really think about it. Um, for me, to be real honest with you, I feel like sometimes a love language for me is just like, give me my space. you know, give, give me my space. Um,
Yeah.
but I do want to still look into each of those. But I'm still like, acts of service, that seems nice, but give me space. I feel like I say that because as an international educator, um, and an introvert, in which that sounds really weird for a lot of people. Like, you educate folks and you're an introvert, you're around children and adults all the time. At the level of my giving in terms of what I do inside the classroom, I do what most educators, at least here, are unable to do because I was poured into, right?
Hmm.
My grandparents, everybody poured love into me. So I know love differently than the people I currently work with. And I know love differently from the kids I'm teaching as well. And so as a giver of my energy and of my time and of my wisdom and and being a listener, and I love listening, love being an active listener, acts of service sounds about right in that aspect.
Hmm.
And then because of all of this interaction that I need to do, this giving, I do need to be, I need my space.
Yeah.
I need to reclaim my time and reclaim my space and put my thoughts down on paper and go walk barefoot on the sand or through grass and
Yeah.
just deep breathe the air in and just
Ground.
watch the sky and cloud gaze and
Hmm.
talk to the moon, like all of those things.
Yeah. 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 I mean, if you look at it from a certain, I think it's easy. Like, we hear acts of service. It's like, what are like somebody, like you said, somebody giving something to you. But the service, and when it comes to love languages, I think sometimes when think of something like an acts of service could be somebody understanding who exactly you are, knowing how you move, knowing the freedom that you need in certain spaces, and the service is giving you your space. Because you can have some people who are part of your life who they want to be all up in your face 24/7 or as frequently as possible. And when you ask for that space, they don't know how to give it because they're not the type of person who feels like they need that. But when it comes to speaking somebody's love language, you can't look at it from the perspective of, well, this is what this is what I would want if it were me. It's like, no, this is what this person wants. So let me give it to them.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to understand whether whether it's friends, whether it's somebody you're in a relationship with, whether it's family, them being able to speak your love language or know your love language enough to know that an act of service is saying, you know what, Youlanda needs her time to herself to gaze at the moon, walk barefoot in the sand, ground herself, just be and to herself. So let me give that to her. Let me give her that space. And when she's ready to come back and interact and engage, she'll come back accordingly. And being okay with that. That's an act of service. Um, being poured into, like one of the things you said, how your family poured love into you. That's an act of service because when you really think about it, Like, and especially if you're looking at it biblically, that's one of the greatest acts of service that you can do is pour love into people. That's what we're called to do as, men and women of God, is pour love into each other and manifest it and model it and show it. So also an act of service. That's why I asked the question in terms of like, or kind of set up the question in terms of like how we traditionally look at like a lot of these terms, but how these even five basic love languages can be maneuvered in a multitude of ways.
Mhm. And when you said that, it takes me back to another country I was in. And at the time, I was a professor. And I loved being a professor because kids are going to learn English the way they're going to learn English. For me, a lot of times, I'm not concerned about you learning the language as you becoming a good person, someone who loves yourself, who takes care of yourself, who listens to yourself, who has a great relationship with God, the creator, and then have a great relationship with yourself so that when you are ready for a relationship and when love comes, that you're ready for it. You attract what you are, and you attract at the level that you're at. Like, a lot of people are trying to attract someone here, but they're down here. That's just not going to
Mhm.
work,
Yeah.
And so one of my girls said to me, she said, "You know what, Mama B? I just want someone to sit in silence with me."
Yeah.
And I looked at her, and in my mind, I was like, "Girl, you almost every man's dream." Because if you look around here on this campus, everybody has this going, right? And so one day she wasn't feeling very well, and so she sat down with me, and we're just sitting there. I'm writing, she's reading,
Mhm.
and I get up and I got her something that I knew that she normally drinks, and then about 20 minutes later, she got up and got a pastry, something that I normally get. And then I went to get up to get something, but she got up before me and she got, my tea. And I was like, this is dope.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then at the end, she says, "Thank you for listening to me." And it was really
Mm.
funny because the students around us was like, they never even said anything, right? Never, you're like, you're right. I was writing, she was reading. I got up and got her something to drink. I wanted a pastry, she got my pastry. Then I was gonna get up and get my tea. She got up and got my tea. And like we just sat there and I could tell people were just looking at us like,
Yeah.
what are they doing?
Yeah.
And she was like, and then later on she says, "You know what we do in the canteen?" She was like, "That's how I want my relationship with my husband to be." And I was like,
Mm.
"Girl,
Mm. Mhm.
you a dream for somebody."
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's so dope. Like
Yeah.
that is what I like too. I think that is
Mhm.
so dope, right?
Mhm.
We're both at the same level, although I'm Mama B and she's my daughter. Anybody that teaches my daughter. And
Yeah.
like that's what I'm talking about. Like I want her to attract somebody at that level, you know.
Yes.
And I'm like
Yes.
helping people get to this level, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, I always remember that. We sat by the window, the garden is here, people are walking past, the cats are coming up, a couple of bees are nestling into the flowers, and then I got Grandpa Cat with a limp. He's gray and white, has a face of a leopard. And also from one side it looks like he's like a white lion
Mhm.
and like he just crosses our path and people are laughing and the other kids are a couple of girls are playing soccer, like that whole day sunny beautiful, we're just sitting by the window, we can see everything pass by, but everything is watching us because we're busy doing what we're doing, and that was
Yeah.
just so dope. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I enjoy about that example is that with this conversation when it comes to love languages is that you two were able to understand each other without even speaking a word. Um And the thing is, like, a lot of times, like, and this was part of a conversation I had with one of my friends, Mark, who was on a couple of weeks ago. And so
Mhm.
one of the things that he said was, or one of the conversations we said was like how, yes, love languages are often spoken of in the context of romantic relationships, but they need to be something that's a part of friendships, like being able to understand somebody's love language, and also in the context of family, like, or whoever that you interact with, them being able to speak your language, you being able to speak their language, and that really adding to the synergy of that relationship to the point where, like, yeah, like somebody says, thank you for listening to me, never even said a word, because when you know that person and
Mhm.
like, you're in tune with that person and it's a synergetic relationship, you don't have to say anything a lot of times. Now granted, like, there's certain moments where it's like, yeah, you don't want to just be a mind reader, but when you know a person well enough, you can kind of sort of sense, if you're sitting with them, you can feel their energy and know it's like, okay, you need this in this moment,
Mhm.
or vice versa, like, I need this in this moment, and this person gets it. I didn't even have
Mhm.
to say anything to them. They knew exactly what I needed in that moment. Like, that's a special thing to be able to speak somebody's love language without speaking a word at all.
Yeah, I do that constantly in my classes. I'll walk in, and before I get started, good morning, everyone.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm feeling somebody is sad, someone is hungry, someone is angry, and half of you don't even want to be here.
Mm,
And then I remember a couple of weeks back, I was feeling some really, really low energy,
mhm,
but I couldn't put my finger on it.
mhm,
And so one day I just walked in. I said, "Girls, who died? Just tell me who died. What happened?" And they all just looked at me like,
mm.
"Miss B, like, how did you?" I was like, "I read energy,
Yeah.
right? I read energy. There are some times where I am now. I'm definitely a unicorn. I'm definitely a magical creature in so many ways because, like I said, I was poured into. So one of the main reasons why I am an educator and also a coach is because I like pouring into people. I like
Mhm,
giving back what was given to me. And coaching is a bit different, but in education, I feel like it's what's needed because of what's going on in the world. And I cannot say that most of my coworkers are able to do that. But
mhm,
like, it is one of the reasons why I am so beloved and respected with my children is because I'm able to connect with them on a level that others cannot. And I feel like
mhm.
when you when you've been loved, when you've been poured into, it makes a difference. It makes a
Yes.
difference with your interactions, how you speak to people, how they speak to you, how you walk into a room, how you read a room, how you understand the dust in the room settling while the air conditioning is on, the windows are open, and kids are trying not to slump down because they know we have to do English, but they also know that before we do English, I'm going to address what's happening, what's going
Mhm.
on, your feelings, the fact that you need to be heard, the fact
Yeah.
that somebody just came in here 15 minutes before the class is supposed to end and thought that they would give you an exam, and none of the papers are in chronological order.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm going to address that. That
Yeah.
energy is going to pour into my class, and I can't
Mhm.
have that. Even if I don't get a lesson done, the lesson is not important. The English part, that's not teaching the English is not important. What's important is the English that I've already taught you, you're using it now to express your feelings,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because
Mhm.
people may forget how you made them feel, but they will never forget what you said to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I say to my children in listening and just listening to them. is more important than what most teachers have done.
Hmm.
And that happens in relationships too. Most people come in talking at you. Mm-mm. I
Yeah,
don't talk at. I don't like to be talked at. I like to be talked to. I like for people to listen to me because I'm going to listen to you. Effective listening is so important. I've solved so many problems with just listening.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's that ties into the whole love language conversation perfectly because it's easy for somebody to speak, but part of the problem with language period and communication period is that everybody wants to talk, but not everybody wants to listen. Everybody wants to put their emotions on front street, but they're not always willing to receive the other person's emotions. And a lot of times because they're unwilling to do that, it leads to a lot of communication breakdowns and it leads to a lot of misunderstanding because one person may be more willing to be understanding of the other person than vice versa. And that's why you see so many relationships fail. Well, and this is again beyond just romantic relationships. We're talking French people who were friends for 30 years, and because of lack of communication, because of trust breakdowns, because of so many different things, because one person or both people didn't understand what the other person needed, they were talking at one another for years and years and years, or after a certain amount of time, instead of talking to and talking with one another. There was no synergy there between the two people anymore, or between a group of people, whatever it might be. I mean, we've seen so many so many R&B groups that end up breaking down, or they end up everybody somebody wants to go solo because communication breakdowns. They started focusing so much on themselves and what they needed within a group structure instead of saying what's going to benefit the group. How are we going to survive and thrive? Not just survive, but thrive as a group. And the only way to do that is if there's that understanding that is maintained throughout that relationship. Because as we've seen so many times with, I mean, not just like singing groups, but bands or whatever, when money gets involved, communication break down real quick. When ego gets involved, communication breaks down even quicker. Because that's
Definitely.
usually, I mean, everybody always talks about the money, but it's the ego. You know what I'm saying? And it makes and it's funny because it makes me think of when my sis Kiana Hargett was on the show. And she quoted
I love her.
yes, absolutely. And she quoted the I guess the founder of Zumba saying, "Your ego is not your amigo." You know what I'm saying? And I think when it comes to any kind of relationship or any kind of connection, you really have to check your ego at the door and say, what do you need? How can I give to you? And I feel like in a lot of ways, I think acts of service would probably be on anybody's list in terms of like not only the love language that's theirs or maybe one of their top three, but I feel like it should be one that's at the top of everybody's list in terms of when they speak well. Like you should want to speak acts of service well, you know. So
Yeah.
uh um connecting, because I mean you talked a lot about like how you are with your students and you kind of alluded to it when it came to coaching. So and how you are a person who doesn't believe in talking at people, but talking to people, talking with people. Um, how do you apply love in the way that you coach people?
I do. I do. And I apply love in when I'm listening to someone, I want to listen in such a way that when I speak back to them, that they know that I'm listening. So where did I learn this technique from? I think we probably learned it in teaching for change. There's like a feedback
Mm-hmm.
model, and
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of changed it a bit. And so when someone is talking to me, I let them know ahead of time, hey, I'm going to be taking a few notes, just jotting a few things down, but I want you to know that I'm still listening to you. And after I listen to them, I want to make sure that I've heard them. So I say some of the key things back to them to make sure that I'm listening to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I also have to apply love when I'm giving that feedback, because feedback, people say it's not negative or positive, but you have to be very careful because people are sharing things with you that are vulnerable. And so you
Hmm.
want to be able to receive them and then give it back to them in a way where they can listen to it, think about it, and move forward.
Yolanda, you there?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That's definitely a part I'm gonna have to cut out.
Okay. It was kind of choppy before, but it kind of smoothed out. Right now, you're kind of frozen. Coaching call.
Okay. You there?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. I think it was
It's
maybe the
okay.
yeah, it might have been the Wi-Fi because we have two different ones and one always works better than the other. So I'll switch to the one that works better. So, like I said, I'm gonna cut all that out. Thank God for editing. Yeah. So,
Did you? Are you going to ask the question again?
actually I got that part. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna chop that part up so like the little technical difficulty won't even show. So yeah, I'll just re-upload it. So but yeah, I got the whole answer. Yeah, so I'm good there. Um so thinking about like different songs that have communicated love in different ways. And one of the things that you said earlier about Anita Baker is that you said like along the lines of like this is how love sounds. You know, like her voice was able to really communicate it in a way that like spoke to you. And whether or not it's one of her songs or, you know, any other song that you kind of sort of feels like does this, what song speaks the type of love that you desire for yourself in any area of your life, whether it's romantically, whether it's friendship, whether it's your relationship with God, whatever it might be? Like, what song do you feel like, or it could be a multitude of songs, it doesn't have to just be one song, but what is a song or a few songs that you feel like captures love the most for you?
From Anita Baker, I love giving you the best that I've got.
Mm,
Um, and I can see her just bobbing and weaving back and forth. A song that I absolutely love is "Can We Talk
mm,
for a Minute?" On what it called The Voice. There's a singer called Des.
yeah,
Yo, she killed that song. Like I hope
yeah,
Tevin can reach out to her. Like for real. Um, those are the I want to dance with somebody. I love that song. Love it, love it,
Mm-hmm.
love it, love it, love it, love it. And the reason why, for me, dance is another love language because
Yeah.
as a writer, I always, growing up as a kid, I'm in my head. I'm always in my head,
Yeah.
always in my head. By the time I got to college, I was so much in my head that I needed to get into my body. Um,
Mm.
and so I would take dance classes to do that.
Yeah.
And it really balanced me out. Like it literally balanced me. It balanced me out. I actually I took a bidisciplinary course in college too. It was with Donna Davenport and Cheryl Forbes. That was an amazing class for me because there we mixed the two together,
Mm.
and we got to work with different artists. So I worked with a visual artist
Okay.
um, as well. Um, and so yeah, I'm gonna dance with somebody, with somebody who loves me. I love Whitney Houston so much. Her passing just really,
Yes.
it just stumped me. Like it
Yeah.
literally was just what, because her voice, again, her voice is magical. It's
Hmm.
so magical. And another song that I love is "Make It Happen" by Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's called "Make It Happen."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I also love "I Had a Vision of Love." I
Mm.
love that song. I love anything Mariah Carey does.
Yeah.
Like simply because, you know what I've been thinking about? Who was the very first singer that did that high C? Because there's
Mm.
so many of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I would.
that note alone is like breaking the sound barrier
Yeah, it is.
of love.
It is. Hmm.
It's like I can't, it's hard to explain it. Like that note reminds me of something that is grounded. Maybe it is a rocket. And it doesn't shoot up in the air quickly. It has this slow rise. And it's white, and on the edges there's like a salmon color or like an orange color, and then
Hmm.
it breaks through the blue and it goes all the way up, and it becomes the tiniest thing that has the brightest light. And
Yeah.
like it's a very dangerous note because your vocal cords are very important. Like
Yep.
you have to warm them up, and you have to drink certain things, and you cannot be around, you can't be in certain, like the air quality has to be a certain way. And
Yeah.
like that note, it's like the breaking point, but a good
Yeah.
kind of breaking. Like that note is amazing. So I know Ariana Grande can do it. Not Whitney Houston. Mariah Carey can do it. I think Chantel Moore can do it too.
Yeah. Shantae Moore can do it.
She can do
She's really good at it. I think Shantae Moore is underrated as probably the closest one to like Mariah Carey to be able to have that much range.
it. Hmm.
Even though I think like Mariah Carey in terms of like her vocal range at the height of her vocal, because it's not the same anymore. Because I think
Hmm.
her singing in a lot of those big stadiums kind of sort of affected her voice. But at the
Yeah.
prime of her vocal high, like there wasn't anywhere that she couldn't go. On, like she
It,
could go real low and she could go real high and she could be right in the middle, and like all of those spaces where she resided were sweet spots for her.
mhm.
Is very few people that could do that.
I want to say one more person. I don't know if you ever heard of Cassandra Wilson. She has a song
Oh
called
yeah.
this song called Closer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This song, you got to hear the song. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's
I like
jazz
Cassandra Wilson.
and blues
Hmm.
and rhythm, and it has like a classical element to
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah.
Um, but I just, again, I love her voice. And
Mhm.
another song I love too, "The Look of Love" by Diana Krall.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Those are all great songs, all great artists too. Um when you were saying artists that like hit those notes like that high, really high note, like actually the first person I thought about, now she didn't have the same power when she kind of sort of came down, although she had a different level of power, was Minnie Riperton. um like Minnie
Ooh.
Riperton could hit those high notes. Another person we've mentioned her a few times who also had like, her range does not get talked about enough, and that's Phyllis Hyman. Like,
I was thinking about her. I
yeah,
love
yeah,
I,
absolute. Like when you talk range, like she can get, she's a lot like Mariah. She can get really low, but then her whistle game, oh my gosh, like when she get in that whistle registry, like it's a
mhm,
beautiful thing, because it's like it's certain parts or certain songs that I think about, like she had this song Waiting for the Last Tear to Fall, off of, I think it
mm,
was her last album, like before she passed away, or
yeah,
right around the time she passed away.
yeah.
um Waiting for the Last Tear to Fall, like she's whistling and it sounds like an instrument, an extra instrument in the song, but it's so high and it's so beautiful that it's like, and it's so perfect how she hits the notes. It's like her ability to do that is, and her, Mariah Carey, Shantae Moore, again, Minnie Riperton, another singer who is able to do that, like somebody that, I've actually I've interviewed a couple of times, or I've had the pleasure to interview a couple of times, and Anita Baker actually shouted her out during one of her concerts, and that's Cy Smith. Cy
Mhm,
Smith also has incredible range as a singer. And honestly, she's probably one of the most unsung singers there are out there, because she's very Minnie Riperton-esque in her tone,
mhm,
but her ability to also kind of sort of go through the ranges, and she's like, and she can go through them with ease. That's a beautiful thing to be able to do as a vocalist.
mhm. Another person I think of too is not so much her song, but like just who she is, Sade. Like,
Oh
it's nothing I
yeah.
love her songs. I just love her existence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's just something, I love the fact that she's on the planet with us. Jill
Yes.
Scott, anything Jill Scott does, Jill Scott
Mm-hmm.
is love in human form. Her,
Yeah.
Sade, um, and Maxwell. Oh my,
Yes. Yes.
Maxwell is it, he's intergalactically dope. Like, when he came on the scene, he brought out a color of love that I think is that's not even on planet, and that is not even on this planet at
Mhm.
all.
Mhm.
His ability to bring the male perspective and the woman's perspective, a woman's work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on, man.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, just that level of balance, and he's a lot more old school for me, even though he's young.
Yeah.
But he has that old soul ethereal kind
Yeah.
of galacticness that you heard from the past.
Yeah.
um, he brings that balance that is lacking in, even in the gender roles nowadays. Like, a lot of the
Mhm.
music has changed because the roles between men and women have changed, and I feel
Yeah.
like as the roles between men and women have changed, and not for the better,
No.
the music has shifted.
Yeah.
um and the music that I'm hearing now, I don't hear colors, I hear raindrops. I see
Mhm.
the black going to gray, and going into white, but not for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Um, and And I feel like artists back then were more in, they struggled with the self, but they also had a group of other people who were struggling. Like let's talk about Mary J. Blige for a second.
Yes.
People talk about Mary J. Blige not being able to sing. Mary J. Blige was bleeding
Yeah.
out. She was the voice of what was happening. This the sound that happens inside that usually doesn't escape us.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so she wasn't just singing, she was bleeding,
Yeah.
was peeling off. Um, she was just raw. She was like the raw, I'm hurt, I don't understand, I'm feeling. And she put that into her songs.
Yeah.
And the way she moved on stage remind me of, there's something going on in the Bible where this woman, she goes, I think she goes into the temple and she begins to pray, and it looks like she's drunk, but she's not. She wants to
Hmm.
have a baby.
Yeah.
And someone says something to her like, "A woman, are you drunk?" And it's like, she's not that kind of drunk. She is, it's paining her because
Yeah.
she wants to do the one thing that women back then were celebrated for. It was what they were known for, you know?
Hmm.
And so Mary J. Blige was like, it wasn't like she was drunk with alcohol, but she was drunk with pain. And so
Yeah.
she was staggering like this, she was just moving, like
Hmm.
just barely keeping it together, pouring her heart out. And I think people just did not understand that this is what it looks like when your heart is not just on your sleeve. It is like, it's like her inside is out and her outside is just her heart.
Hmm.
And I don't think that people understood how to receive her.
Yeah.
She had a lot of turmoil going on, but I'm very grateful that she was able to stay in it and people were able to give her grace and allow
Yeah.
her to just bleed. Like that
Yeah.
was just bleeding. And it reminds me also of the moaning women in church on the front row. Like she did a lot of the moaning and the just the rawness,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like you don't even see that. Like people are afraid to be vulnerable, and vulnerability makes you stronger, makes you more beautiful, makes you more
Yes.
relatable, makes you more human. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, like
Yeah, I agree, especially when it comes to Mary J. Blige, because I think, and I remember dating somebody a long time ago and constantly getting into arguments with her about like the technicality of how people sing. Like, because we I remember when Ordinary People by John Legend came out, and we went back and forth about like, oh, was she, she was more of a technical singer, and
mhm,
I was more the type of person. It's like, I don't care as much about how you technically get it done as much as I care about the emotion behind what you're singing. And when it comes down to it, like, yeah, Mary J. Blige might not be she's not the Whitney Houston level technical singer. She's not the Mariah Carey level technical singer. Like,
mhm,
she's not necessarily that level of singer. But when it comes to emotion, like, there is no denying that she's in a class by herself, because she's one of the most real singers that we've ever had in
mhm,
music, period. I'm not even gonna just limit it to R&B or soul. Like, in music, period. Like, when she sings about something, you feel it. Like, when I think about my favorite song by Mary J. Blige, or one of my favorite songs, because sometimes I go back and forth between this and what's the song that Lauryn Hill produced for her? All That I Can Say. I go back and forth between Not Gonna Cry and All That I Can Say. But Not Gonna Cry, like, you got to think about it. Like, this is a song from a soundtrack, from Waiting to Exhale. And so she has to interpret these lyrics that Babyface has written. And that's another thing. She stepped into the big leagues when Babyface produced for the first time. Like you, I mean, and not to say that who she was working with before wasn't big league, but it ain't. I mean, you go from working with like a lot of bad boy producers and
Mhm.
writers to Babyface. Like you done really stepped in it now, so it's like you really gotta come with it
Yeah.
and really interpret those lyrics and deliver those lyrics in a way that people that is deeper than just you expressing a moment in a movie. Like
Mm,
this song is the movie. Kind of going back to what you said about Whitney Houston being able
mhm,
to do that and make it a movie of a song. Mary J was able to do that with Not Gonna Cry. Like it became the movie personified in one song. Like
mhm.
I love the entire soundtrack, but there was no song on that soundtrack to me that embodied the the heart and soul of that movie more than Not Gonna Cry. And
Mhm.
she doesn't get enough credit, or people don't give her enough credit for being able to do that. Like, yeah, they always knock her for not being the greatest singer, but I'm like, I don't care about that as much as I care about, okay, do you sell me on what you're singing about? I
No
need to be
drama.
sold. Oh
No
yeah.
drama.
Yeah.
That was
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
complete movie. I love everything about that song. Like I don't know who did the musical arrangement, but the music was dope. It reminded me of the soap operas,
Mm-hmm.
right? That I used to
Mm-hmm.
watch. I used to love Days of Our Lives. One of my big poet sisters used to write for them, Wanda Coleman. And when I used to watch Days of Our Lives, I knew aspects of it had to been written by a poet because it was the only one that I liked.
Mm-hmm.
But No Drama is dope. I want to
Yeah.
introduce another song, Let's Wait a While by
Oh
Janet
yeah.
Jackson.
Oh
And the
yeah.
reason why I love this song because it embodies her. Because remember back
Yeah.
in the day, still now, she's extremely shy. And I
Mm-hmm.
love how she stayed in her essence. Like,
Yeah.
that sounds like her. Let's wait a
Mm-hmm.
while. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that song.
Yeah. Yeah. There was
I
an
love that.
innocence. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was an
Yeah.
innocence to that song that I'm not gonna say completely disappeared because it was always there with Janet, but it was just like I think because you're talking about 20-year-old Janet. Like you
Yeah.
got to think about it. Like Rhythm Nation, she made that. I mean, not Rhythm Nation. Control. She made Control when she was 20 years old.
Wow.
20 years old and put out a iconic album like that. And it's funny that you mentioned Let's Wait a While right behind No More Drama because you were saying you didn't know who produced it. Actually, both Let's Wait a While, No More Drama, produced by the same people, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. And
Oh.
yeah,
Oh.
both songs. And interestingly enough, the funny thing about you saying that it kind of reminds you of the soap operas, they basically took like the heart and soul of the Young and Restless theme and
I thought
framed music around it.
that's dope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like, wait, that sounds like that could be like a soap opera or something. But I was like, I don't watch that soap opera. I'm a Days of My
Ye-
Life girl. Like, Like, no,
yeah.
I don't cheat on my soap operas. Uh-uh.
I grew up a CBS soap opera person because my mom watched CBS soaps, even though she did watch All My Children and One Life to
Mhm.
Live for a long time. I think she might have watched General Hospital for a small little period, but mainly she was watching All My Children when Jesse was on the show. I don't know if you remember Jesse, but like when the whole thing when he died on the soap opera, it was like one of those iconic moments in soap
Mhm.
opera history, kind of like Luke and Laura on General Hospital, or anything with Victor Newman on The Young and the Restless. So I kind of grew up with soaps, but not grew up with soaps. And what's funny is that now, like every day, I watch General Hospital. That's become my soap that I still watch. You know what I'm saying? So I feel you on the soaps.
I want to mention about that. The main reason why I watched Days of Our Lives is because of love. There was
Mm,
who was it? It was Hope and Bo. I forget who it was, but their love story
yeah.
was just so dope to me.
Hmm.
The fact that her name was Hope, and I believe his name was Bo, and Bo is the name of my uncle. His name is Uncle Sam. Samson, we call him Sam or Bo
Yeah.
as well. But like it was the love. And you know what else? I love the way the show was written. That
Hmm.
whole show, Days of Our Lives, was at its core was about different perspectives and aspects of love, and it had the hourglass,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Shaped like the letter eight, with you know, and with white sand going through it.
Mhm.
Sand
Mhm.
from the beach. Everybody loves to go there. I think it takes you like blown like we make glass with sand,
Yeah.
um, and like how that just all went together, and the colors and the way people spoke and the
Mhm.
family aspect, the
Yeah.
drama. Yeah, but I was really there for the words, how they were written, how they were spoken.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, first and foremost, you're right. It was Hope and Bo. They were two of like the main or the prominent storylines on Days of Our Lives. I didn't watch Days of Our Lives. But I do remember Hope and Bo. Like I
Mhm.
definitely as soon as you said their names, I was like, oh yeah, I remember them, even though I didn't watch the show. But the whole thing of like the writing, I think that's one of the reasons why it ended up being probably the only NBC soap to stick around because I mean, soaps have kind of sort of dwindled anyway, but like I
Mhm.
think they only have Days of Our Lives left. Like I don't think they have anything else.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Kind of like ABC only has General Hospital. And I think CBS, I think they still have The Young and the Restless and what's the one that was kind of like it came out when I was a kid. It's Bold and the Beautiful. I think those are their only two remaining soaps. So like, but to know that Days of Our Lives would be the one to kind of sort of last the test of time, that's a testament to what you're saying in terms of it being the one that kind of sort of represented love the best in
Yeah.
terms of like the soaps that you enjoyed or the soaps that you watch, you know. And I mean that's another thing, like thinking about how TV, music, all of these things that like kind of entertain us, they intersect in terms of how they inform the way that we receive so many things or how we view so many things. And like kind of tying that into the whole love language conversation or just
Mhm.
how things speak love to us. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't even thought like soaps in any scope of this conversation because you know most people I know don't watch soaps. You know what I'm saying? Or they might have, but they probably watched it with their grandmama or their auntie or their mama. You know what I'm saying? But it's just one of those interesting things. You know what I'm saying? To be able to tie that into the whole conversation. Yeah. So I guess the last question that I'll ask, and it could be anybody in your life, anybody that you've interacted with or that you've had any kind of kinship with or whatever. Who do you feel like, and it could be just whether you look at it through the lens of your identified love language or just when it comes to love, period. Who do you feel like in your life spoke love in a way that you really could receive it the best?
My grandmother. Yeah. My grandmother wasn't much of a talker, which is why
Mhm.
I could spend a lot of time with her. We also had that I was the kind of grandkid where I would be with my grandmother constantly. If she was cooking, I would be cleaning, I would be organizing. We would sit out on the porch and swing and we drink lemonade and watermelon and like she would hum songs and yeah, my grandmother was just dope. She never wanted me to be anything other than who I was. Never asked me to do anything that was just out of line with my character. I was one of her favorites as right along with my other siblings, mostly because we were raised the way she raised my mom,
Mm,
and so she was always patient and kind, and she was a great listener. Had a wonderful smile. She noticed a lot of things but didn't say a lot of things, and we could
mm.
have conversations with just not even speaking.
Yeah,
Like she was just so dope.
yeah, yeah, yeah. When I shouldn't be surprised because I think about one of your episodes when you were talking about your grandmother and like how she cooked, because like there are so many different ways that the people in our lives like kind of speak love or communicate love, and like the way that you described how she cooked, like that's another way to speak love, like, or to kind of sort of speak through different ways of showing your love or how much you
Mhm.
care about somebody or how much you value the people in your life, to be able to cook in a way where it's like you feel, I'm sure in a lot of ways, as much as you describe so many things in colors, that you could take a, what was her biscuits that she made? I'm pretty sure it was a lot of colors that jump off the page when you took a bite into one of them biscuits.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So like I enjoyed like that particular episode probably the most out of all of the episodes, and I mean what is a great series that you have going on. Like that was the one I enjoyed the most, and like hearing about the love that you had with your grandmother. Like,
Thank
and I mean you expressed that love, or a similar type of love, but different in a lot of ways with your mother as well. But when you described your love with your grandmother, like that was really special to
you.
hear that, and it also kind of speaks to the connection that a lot of us within our community have with Big Mama, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying, so to say.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So that's awesome. That's awesome, man. It's awesome to have that kind of love from a nurturing figure in your
yeah.
life, because I feel like in a lot of ways that guides you in terms of how you love yourself and how you love other people.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, this has been a fantastic conversation as I expected. I'm not surprised, you know what I'm saying? Like especially like just the layers of how you broke a lot of things down with music when it comes to how you interact with people, how people interact with you, the type of love that you need, the type of love you give. I think that a lot of people can draw a lot of gems from this particular conversation. And I appreciate you for coming on, sis.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, of course, as always, with all of my guests, because my guests are awesome people and they do awesome things, this is your time to plug everything that you have going on that you would like people to know about, how they can connect with you, how they can get into, tap in with Miss B's Academy, follow you on social media, all of that stuff. Like, this is your time to shine.
Yeah, so you can follow me on IG at Youlanda.d.barber, Youlanda Barber on Facebook, and Miss B's Academy. It's still Youlanda D. Barber. So, yeah, all of those. You can catch me on a video, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell them a little bit more about Miss B's Academy. Like what was the inspiration behind it, and everything that the gems that you drop from week to week with it.
Miss B's Academy is me like giving you a glimpse of like who I am, my life, how I think, how I move, and just the things that happen in my life where I'm drawing inspiration, but also loving myself, taking care of myself, putting myself first, and really just thinking before I move.
Yeah. Yeah. That's important. Got to things can't be impulsive. They have to be, I don't sometimes calculated can be put in a bad connotation, but it is
Yeah,
kind of sort of a calculated move. You know what I'm saying? Like you really have to assess how you move, especially being where you are in the world. Like that
yeah,
that cannot be understated.
yeah,
You really
because
have to be.
yeah, because where I am in the world, the people who do all the work still look like me: maids, nannies, construction workers. So when I come into a classroom, I bring the change. Like you
Yeah,
already know. It's, as
yeah.
soon as you see me coming, you like, okay, Miss coming, right? Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm coming with the love, I'm coming with the light, and I'm coming with you know, the mother continent in all of her glory and all of her gems and all of her wealth and all of her riches and all of God's blessings. So
Yes,
everything that was poured into me gets poured into those that are around me. Especially if I'm teaching your child, they're my child too. So they're going to be
hmm
loved first and
I love it.
foremost. And that's I can't, everything I do I have to lead with love, but God's love to me, my cup is full. What's in the cup is mine. What rolls out of the cup, that's for you. And if that's your child, you know your child is being taken care of. Or if you're a client, you know you're going to be taken care of.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Like that another visual, because all I just picture is like your cup runneth over, and it's just like, hitting everybody. Like if you hear, you get some. If you hear, you get some. You know what I mean? So like I love that. I love that approach. And I'm sure everybody that you teach and everybody you coach appreciates that approach that you take as well when it comes to how you communicate love, as a teacher,
Yeah.
as a coach. So I salute you for everything that you do, in all of the ways in which you do it. And once again, I just thank you so much for coming on tonight. And we'll be in constant contact as we always are.
Yeah.
So yes, indeed. So I appreciate you and I love you, my sister.
I love you too, twin.
All right, now, peace.
Peace.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, that was my sis, my twin, Youlanda Barber. So grateful for her to be on the program tonight. And of course, this is all connected to my latest single from my forthcoming project called Love on Rewind, my latest single being Fluent in My Language, which is the inspiration for all of this that we have going on. This is a part of the series currently available on all streaming platforms. It's also available on my website, bammllc.net/music, and it's also available on Bandcamp. That is ajthrowback.bandcamp.com. So once again, that is Fluent in My Language, the latest R&B single, instrumental single from this project. So y'all definitely stay tuned. I will be dropping more singles to come. And I appreciate everybody's support of the single so far, as well as the first single, Something New. Definitely be on the lookout for the album when it drops. I'll definitely be letting everybody know where you can get it. Also, of course, y'all know I got the merch and all that good stuff. So you see the hat, see the shirt. I have a Love on Rewind collection out right now that you can also get. You can get it at my website, bammllc.net/shop batch. Once again, that's bammllc.net/shop batch. Now, this hat is currently unavailable on the website, but I've been getting a lot of people asking about this hat after I took it off. So I might have to put it back, but we're gonna see about that. This shirt, I believe, is still available on the website. So definitely, if not this version, then definitely another version of the Vampire State University shirt. Because the vampire is a lifestyle. It's all about balance and all of that good stuff. That's what the whole batch brand is about, because as I always say, balance is a master key to life. So unlock your expression so you can unlock your expression with a multitude of different types of styles that I offer on the page, including the Love on Rewind collection. You've seen the Take Them to the Bridge tees and sweatshirts. You've seen the R&B music great again, dad hats, all that good stuff. And I think I have another, everybody loves a good throwback, because who doesn't love a good throwback? You know what I'm saying? And I'm not just talking about myself. I am a good throwback, but I mean any type of throwback, but specifically the music. So all of that is available on the website. And you can also follow the Batch brand at batch.202 on Facebook and Instagram. And then on X/Twitter, it is batch_202. And if you're not already following me, what you doing? I'm gonna need y'all to get up on that. But I appreciate everybody's support. But if you're not following me, please make sure that you do so. I am at a.j.throwback on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. I am at AJ Throwback on Facebook and X/Twitter. And right here on YouTube, I am at AJ Throwback 928. If this is your first time watching anything that I've done, first and foremost, thank you. Whether you're watching this live or what you watching this on a replay, thank you so much for tapping in. Please make sure that you like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell notification so that whenever I go live, post a new video, premiere a new video, you'll be among the first to know. So I appreciate everybody for tuning into tonight's episode of Bring Back the Love Conversations. Of course, we'll be back next Friday night at the same time. At place, same station, all that good stuff. So make sure that y'all tap in for that conversation. And until then, I want y'all to enjoy the rest of y'all weekend. And keep the love flowing, because this is Bring Back the Love Conversations, or I like to say Bring Back TLC, because it's not about just bringing back the love conversations. It's about bringing back tender, loving care. So until next week, y'all enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.